The autumn festival on New Eden was the happiest day of the year. Families gathered in the central square under strings of golden lights. Children ran between the food stalls, their laughter filling the cool evening air. Parents watched with tired smiles as their sons and daughters played games and chased each other through the crowds. Linda Cole stood near the fountain, holding a cup of warm cider. Her daughter Hannah, 8 years old with messy brown hair, was playing with a group of friends near the stage where musicians performed old Earth songs. Linda watched her carefully, as all mothers do, but she felt safe here. New Eden was a peaceful world. Nothing bad ever happened on New Eden. The first sign of trouble was a strange light in the sky. Someone pointed upward and asked what it was. Then another light appeared, and another. Within seconds, dozens of bright objects descended through the clouds, moving too fast and too precisely to be meteors. The music stopped. The laughter stopped. Everyone looked up. The objects were ships. They were shaped like black triangles with no visible windows or markings. They made no sound as they landed in the fields around the colony. For a moment, nothing happened. The colonists had frozen, unsure whether to run or stay. Then the doors opened. The creatures that emerged were tall and thin, with gray skin and forearms. Their faces had no expression, just flat features and small dark eyes. They wore black armor and carried weapons that glowed with blue light. They moved with terrible purpose, spreading out through the festival grounds in perfect formation. The screaming began when they started taking the children. Linda saw it happen. One of the creatures grabbed a boy near the fountain and pressed something against his neck. The boy went limp instantly. The creature handed him to another, who carried him toward the ships. All around the square, the same scene repeated. Parents tried to fight, but the creatures were too strong and too fast. Anyone who resisted was knocked aside with casual violence. Linda ran toward Hannah. She pushed through the panicking crowd, calling her daughter's name. She saw Hannah standing near the stage, frozen with fear, as one of the creatures walked toward her. "Hannah! Run!" Hannah turned at her mother's voice. She started to move, but the creature was faster. It reached out with two of its arms and grabbed her. Linda screamed and threw herself at the creature, hitting it with her fists, but it barely noticed her. A second creature pushed her to the ground and held her there while the first one carried Hannah away. "Mommy!" Hannah's voice cut through the chaos like a knife. Linda fought against the creature, holding her down, but she could not move. She watched helplessly as her daughter was carried into one of the black ships. The doors closed. The ships lifted off the ground and rose into the sky. In less than 10 minutes, it was over. The creatures were gone. The ships were gone. And 47 children were gone with them. The colony of New Eden was left in ruins. Not physical ruins, the buildings still stood. The lights still burned, but something had been broken that could never be fully repaired. Parents wandered through the square, calling names that no one would answer. Some sat on the ground and wept. Others stood in silence, too shocked to speak. The emergency signal went out within the hour. It reached every human ship and station within 10 light years. It reached Earth, and it reached the patrol vessel Starward Horizon, currently stationed 3 systems away. Commander Nathan Cole was in his quarters when the message arrived. He read it twice, then a third time. His hands began to shake. New Eden, 47 children taken. Among the missing, Hannah Cole, age 8, daughter of Linda Cole, sister of deceased Captain Roger Cole. Hannah, his niece. His brother's daughter. Nathan was on the bridge within minutes, ordering maximum speed to New Eden. The journey took 14 hours. They were the longest 14 hours of his life. When the Starward Horizon arrived, Nathan took a shuttle down to the surface. He found his sister-in-law sitting in the medical center, wrapped in a blanket, staring at nothing. Her eyes were empty. When she saw Nathan, she started crying again. "They took her," Linda whispered. "They took my baby." Nathan held her and promised he would bring Hannah back. He did not know if he could keep that promise, but he made it anyway. Dr. Laura Bennett, the ship's medical officer, examined the scene with a team of specialists. They found strange equipment left behind by the creatures, scanning devices designed to identify children with specific genetic markers. The creatures had not taken children at random. They had chosen them. Intelligence Officer Daniel Perry identified the creatures from galactic databases. They were called the Kethviri, a species from the far side of the galaxy. They were known to be technologically advanced and politically powerful. They were also known to have no respect for other species. Ambassador Patricia Vance contacted the Galactic Council immediately. She demanded action. She demanded justice. The Council responded with words of sympathy and promises of investigation. They explained that the Kethviri were a sovereign species and that proper procedures must be followed. These things took time. How much time? Vance asked. "Several months," the Council representative replied. "Perhaps a year." "Our children do not have a year," Vance said coldly. "Humanity will not wait for your paperwork while our children suffer." The Council warned against taking unilateral action. They spoke of diplomatic consequences and galactic law. Vance ended the transmission without responding. That night, Nathan stood alone on the observation deck of the starward horizon. He looked out at the stars and thought about Hannah. He remembered teaching her to ride a bicycle. He remembered her laugh, her smile, the way she called him Uncle Nate, even though he always pretended to be annoyed by it. Somewhere out there, she was frightened and alone. Somewhere out there, creatures with no souls had taken her for purposes he did not want to imagine. Nathan made a decision. He would find the Kethviri. He would get those children back. And if anyone tried to stop him, he would go through them. The next morning, Perry came to Nathan with new information. He had intercepted a Kethviri transmission. The children were being taken to a research station for something called biological harvesting. Nathan felt something cold settle in his chest. It was not fear. It was not grief. It was something older and darker, something that humanity had carried since the first parent lost the first child. It was rage. "Set a course," Nathan ordered. "We're going hunting." The starward horizon moved through space like a predator following a blood trail. For 3 days, they tracked the Kethviri ships through jump points and trade routes that most species avoided. The trail led them deeper into unexplored territory, far from any friendly port or allied station. Nathan barely slept. He spent his hours on the bridge, watching the navigation displays, waiting for any sign of their quarry. Dr. Bennett worried about him, but she understood. Everyone on the ship understood. This was not just a mission. This was personal. On the 4th day, Daniel Perry called Nathan to the intelligence center. The young officer looked tired but excited. He had been working without rest, decoding Kethviri communications intercepted from relay stations along their route. "I found something," Perry said. He pulled up a translation on his screen. The Kethviri have been doing this for centuries. They call it collection. They take young members of other species and use them for medical research. Nathan felt his stomach turn. What kind of research? Their species is dying. Something in their genetics is breaking down. They live shorter lives with each generation. They believe that young specimens from certain species contain regenerative cells that can slow or reverse the process. Specimens. Nathan repeated the word with disgust. That's how they see other species. As resources to be harvested. Perry pulled up more data. They've done this to at least 30 different species over the past 500 years. None of them ever fought back. Why not? Because the Kethveri are powerful. They have advanced weapons, strong fleets, and connections in the Galactic Council. The species they target are usually weak or isolated. They choose their victims carefully. Perry paused. I don't think they expected humans to be different. Nathan allowed himself a grim smile. Then they made a mistake. The stalwart Horizon continued its pursuit. They passed through systems that had never seen human ships. They received warnings from local species to turn back, to leave the Kethveri alone, to accept their loss and go home. Nathan ignored them all. On the sixth day, they encountered a Kethveri patrol, 2 warships guarding a jump point that led deeper into Kethveri territory. The alien ships immediately moved to intercept, broadcasting warnings in their harsh language. They're telling us to surrender, Perry translated. They say we are trespassing in sovereign space. Nathan looked at the tactical display. The Kethveri ships were fast and well armed. A smart commander might have retreated to wait for reinforcements. Nathan was not feeling smart. He was feeling angry. Battle stations, he ordered. All weapons ready. The fight was short but brutal. Human ships were not as advanced as Kethveri vessels, but human crews trained harder and fought meaner. The stalwart Horizon took damage to its outer hull, but both Kethveri ships were destroyed within 20 minutes. One escape pod was recovered from the wreckage. Inside was a Kethveri officer, badly wounded but alive. Nathan ordered him brought to the medical bay and kept under guard. Dr. Bennett treated the alien's injuries. Though Nathan could see how much it cost her to help a creature whose species had taken children for torture. When the Kethveri officer was stable, Nathan went to speak with him. The alien looked at Nathan with its small, dark eyes. There was no fear in them, only contempt. You cannot stop what has begun, the Kethveri said through a translation device. The specimens are being processed. By the time you find them, there will be nothing left to rescue. Nathan grabbed the alien by its throat. The guards moved to stop him, but he waved them back. Where are they? The Kethveri made a sound that might have been laughter. Do you think I will tell you? Do you think I fear death? I think you fear pain, Nathan said quietly. And I think you fear what my species will do when we find out what you've done to our children. The Kethveri's contempt flickered for just a moment. You are alone. 1 ship, 1 crew. The Dominion has thousands of warships. You cannot fight us. No one can fight us. People keep saying that, Nathan said. I keep proving them wrong. He released the alien and stepped back. Put him in a cell. Maybe he'll feel like talking later. The stalwart Horizon pushed forward. They were deep in enemy territory now, surrounded by hostile space with no allies and no support. The smart move would be to turn back and report their findings to Earth. Let the military handle it. Let the diplomats negotiate. But every hour they waited was another hour those children spent in the hands of monsters. On the 8th day, they received an unexpected visitor. A small diplomatic shuttle appeared on their sensors, requesting permission to dock. It carried Ambassador Euron, a representative of the Galactic Council from a neutral species called the Val. Euron was short and round, with blue skin and large golden eyes. He spoke softly and moved carefully, like someone who had spent his life avoiding conflict. Commander Cole, Euron said when they met in the conference room, I have been sent to urge you to stop this pursuit. The Galactic Council is deeply concerned about the escalating situation. The escalating situation, Nathan repeated. You mean the kidnapping and torture of children? Euron shifted uncomfortably. The Council acknowledges that the Kethveri actions were regrettable. However, diplomatic channels exist to address such grievances. Military action will only make things worse. Diplomatic channels take months. Those children don't have months. Commander, please understand. The Kethveri have never faced consequences for their actions because no species has been willing to challenge them. They are too powerful, too connected. Euron leaned forward. If you continue this course, you will start a war that humanity cannot win. Nathan stood and walked to the window. He looked out at the stars, thinking about Hannah, thinking about all 47 children alone and afraid. Ambassador, he said finally, the Kethveri have never faced humanity. They don't know what we're capable of when someone hurts our children. They don't know that we will burn down the galaxy itself to protect them. That is exactly what the Council fears. Nathan turned back to face Euron. Good. Maybe fear will teach them what diplomacy couldn't? Euron left the ship an hour later. His mission failed. Nathan watched the shuttle disappear into the darkness, then turned to his crew. We found them, Perry reported. Long-range sensors have located a research station orbiting a gas giant 12 hours away. I'm reading 47 human life signs. 47. All of them still alive. Still waiting to be saved. Nathan took a deep breath. Sergeant Gray, prepare your Marines. We're going in. The Kethveri research station hung in the darkness like a metal spider, its long arms extending around the orange glow of the gas giant below. Dozens of ships moved around its supply vessels, patrol craft, and heavy warships designed to keep unwanted visitors away. Nathan studied the station through the bridge display. Somewhere inside that structure, 47 children were waiting. His niece was waiting. The station has 3 main sections, Perry explained, pointing to a holographic model. The outer ring is housing and administration. The middle section is research laboratories. The core is where they keep the subjects. Subjects, Sergeant Marcus Gray said with disgust. He was a big man with a shaved head and arms covered in scars from a dozen battles. They mean our kids. The defenses are heavy, Perry continued. 6 warships in patrol, automated weapon platforms, and at least 200 armed personnel inside the station. What do we have? Nathan asked. 1 ship, 80 Marines, and a lot of anger. Gray smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Anger will be enough. The plan was simple because there was no time for anything complicated. The starboard horizon would engage the patrol ships and draw their attention. While the battle raged, a boarding shuttle would approach the station from the blind side and breach the outer hull. The Marines would fight their way to the core, extract the children, and return to the shuttle. Simple. Simple did not mean easy. The attack began at dawn, though there was no real dawn in space. Nathan gave the order, and the starboard horizon burst from hiding behind a nearby moon. The Kethveri patrol ships scrambled to intercept, firing weapons that lit up the darkness like lightning dot. Nathan held the bridge through the shaking and the noise. Damage reports came in from all sections. The ship was taking hits, but she was holding together. Human ships were tough. Human crews were tougher. Boarding shuttle away, the tactical officer reported. Nathan watched the tiny craft slip past the battle and approach the station. The Kethveri had not noticed it yet. They were too focused on the starboard horizon, too confident that one human ship could not threaten them. The shuttle reached the station and attached to the outer hull. Marines in sealed armor cut through the metal and poured inside. Gray led the assault personally. He was the first through the breach, his weapon firing before his boots touched the floor. The Kethveri guards were surprised but recovered quickly. They were trained soldiers, and they fought back hard. The corridors of the station were narrow and dark, perfect for close combat. Gray's Marines moved through them like water through cracks, flowing around obstacles, filling every space with violence. The Kethveri fell back, unable to stop the human advance. Keep moving, Gray ordered. Don't stop for anything. They passed through the housing section into the research laboratories. What they saw there would stay with them forever. Rooms filled with tanks and tubes. Bodies floating in green liquid, members of species they had never seen before, some alive, some not. Machines that hummed with terrible purpose. And everywhere, the smell of chemicals and something worse. Something that reminded Gray of death. "They've been doing this for centuries," one Marine whispered. "Focus," Gray snapped. "Our kids are still ahead." They pushed forward, fighting through more guards, taking casualties of their own. 2 Marines fell in the crossfire. Another was wounded badly and had to be carried. But they did not stop. They could not stop. Finally, they reached the core. The room was large and circular, filled with rows of small beds. On each bed lay a child, connected to machines by wires and tubes. Their eyes were closed, their bodies still. For one terrible moment, Gray thought they were dead. Then he saw a chest rise and fall. Then another. They were alive. Sedated but alive. "Spread out," Gray ordered. "Disconnect them carefully. We're taking everyone home." The Marines worked quickly, removing the children from the machines with gentle hands that had killed. Moments before, Dr. Bennett's voice came through the communication link, guiding them on how to safely remove the medical equipment without causing harm. Gray found Hannah Cole in the 3rd row. She was thin and pale, with dark circles under her eyes, but she was breathing. He lifted her carefully and saw her eyelids flutter. "Uncle Nate?" she whispered, her voice weak and confused. "I'm not your uncle, sweetheart," Gray said softly. "But he sent me to bring you home." A noise at the door made him turn. A Kethviri in white robes stood there, holding a small device. Behind the alien were more guards. "You will not leave here," the Kethviri said. Gray recognized him from the intelligence files. Scholar Mealyth, the lead researcher, the one responsible for all of this. "Watch me," Gray said. Mealyth pressed a button on his device. "This controls the medical systems. One more press, and I flood the subjects with poison. They will all die in seconds." Gray froze. The other Marines froze. Mealyth smiled. If that expression could be called a smile on a face so alien. "Put down your weapons. Surrender yourselves. Perhaps the Dominion will show mercy." Gray looked at Hannah in his arms, at the other children being held by his Marines. He looked at the device in Mealyth's hand. He calculated distances and angles in his head. "You know what I've learned about your species?" Gray said calmly. "You're not used to people fighting back. You've spent so long preying on the weak that you've forgotten what the strong look like." Mealyth's smile faltered. Gray moved. In one smooth motion, he passed Hannah to the Marine beside him, drew his sidearm, and fired. The shot crossed the room in a heartbeat and struck Mealyth's hand, destroying the device and 3 of his fingers. Mealyth screamed. Gray crossed the distance before the scream ended and put his second shot through the alien's head. The guards opened fire, but the Marines were ready. The battle in the core lasted less than a minute. When it was over, every Kethviri was dead, and every child was safe. All children secured, Gray reported to the starboard horizon. Returning to the shuttle now. The escape was chaos. More Kethviri forces arrived, led by Commander Thelix himself. Fighting erupted throughout the station as the Marines retreated with their precious cargo. The starboard horizon took heavy damage covering their escape, but they made it. The shuttle launched from the station moments before Nathan ordered a full barrage that tore the facility apart. The research station exploded in a ball of white fire, taking its secrets and its horrors with it. On the shuttle, surrounded by sleeping children, Gray allowed himself to breathe. They had done it. They had brought them home. The children of New Eden returned home as heroes, though they did not feel like heroes. They felt tired and scared and confused. Dr. Bennett worked with them day and night, helping their bodies heal from what had been done to them. The wounds in their minds would take longer. Hannah Cole, was reunited with her mother in a small room at the New Eden Medical Center. Linda held her daughter and cried until there were no tears left. Nathan watched from the doorway, feeling something tight in his chest finally begin to loosen. But the story was not over. It was only beginning. The data recovered from the Kethviri station was transmitted to Earth and shared with the entire human population. People saw the laboratories. They saw the tanks filled with bodies. They saw what the Kethviri had planned to do with their children. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Every government on Earth and every human colony voted for war. There was no debate, no opposition, no calls for peace. For the first time in human history, the species spoke with one voice. The Kethviri would pay within 2 weeks. The United Earth Navy mobilized every available warship. Reserves were called up. Factories worked around the clock building new vessels. Volunteers flooded. Recruitment centers faster than they could be. Process. Ambassador Patricia Vance addressed the Galactic Council one final time before departing Earth. You had centuries to stop the Kethviri, she told the assembled representatives. You knew what they were doing. You had evidence of their crimes against dozens of species. And you did nothing. You were afraid of them. You were comfortable with your peace, even if that peace was built on the suffering of others. The council chamber was silent. Humanity is not afraid, Vance continued. And we are not comfortable. We are coming for the Kethviri Dominion, and nothing in this galaxy will stop us. You can help us, or you can stay out of our way. Those are your only choices. She turned and walked out. No one tried to stop her. The war began with human fleets striking Kethviri military installations across 3 star systems simultaneously. The attacks were fast, brutal, and overwhelming. The Kethviri had expected diplomacy, negotiations, perhaps some minor skirmishes. They got annihilation. Nathan led the assault on a major Kethviri shipyard in the Venner system. His fleet consisted of 12 warships, all crewed by volunteers who'd seen the videos from the research station. They fought with a fury that the Kethviri could not match. The shipyard fell in 6 hours. 300 enemy vessels were destroyed before they could launch. The Kethviri commander surrendered and asked for mercy. Nathan accepted the surrender and took the prisoners alive. He was angry, but he was not cruel. Other battles went the same way. Human fleets appeared without warning, struck with overwhelming force, and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. The Kethviri Navy, spread across a vast territory, could not respond quickly enough. High Prefect Zorvan watched his empire crumble with growing disbelief. He had ruled the Dominion for 60 years. He had overseen the collection of specimens from dozens of species. No one had ever challenged him. No one had ever dared. Now these humans, these primitive creatures from a small planet on the edge of the galaxy, were tearing his empire apart. He broadcast a message to all human forces, demanding a ceasefire. He offered compensation for the children. He offered trade agreements and territory. He offered everything except the one thing that mattered. Justice. Nathan received the message and recorded his response personally. High Prefect, you took our children. You planned to cut them apart and use their bodies to extend your worthless lives. There is no compensation for that. There is no deal we will accept. There is only one thing we want now, and we will take it whether you offer it or not. He paused, letting the silence stretch. We want you to understand fear. We want you to know what it feels like to watch everything you love being taken from you. We want you to lie awake at night, wondering if tomorrow will be your last day. That is what you gave our children. That is what we will give you. The message ended. Zorvan watched it 3 times, his hands shaking with rage and something he had never felt before. Terror. The human advance continued. World after world fell to the human fleets. Kethviri military bases were destroyed. Warships were hunted down and eliminated. The Dominion's power, built over thousands of years, collapsed in weeks. Ambassador Euron returned to the starward horizon as the human fleet approached the Kethviri home system. He looked older than before, his golden eyes dim with worry. "Commander Cole, I beg you to reconsider," Euron pleaded. "You have won. The Kethviri are broken. Their military is destroyed. What more do you want?" "I want them to never do this again," Nathan said. "I want every species in this galaxy to know that there are consequences for hurting children. I want the Kethviri to be an example." "An example of what? Genocide?" Nathan's jaw tightened. "I haven't decided yet." The human fleet surrounded the Kethviri homeworld like a fist closing around a throat. Billions of Kethviri civilians looked up at the sky and saw the ships that would decide their fate. Zorvan made one final broadcast. He stood on the balcony of his palace, looking old and tired. "People of the Dominion, the humans have come for us. They want to destroy everything we have built. But I will not surrender. I will not bow to these inferior creatures. If they want our world, they will have to take it from our corpses." He raised his hand, and weapons platforms across the planet powered up. "We will take every human ship with us. We will make them bleed for every meter of our soil. We will." The broadcast cut off. Across the planet, Kethviri citizens looked at each other in silence. They looked at their children. They thought about what had brought them to this moment, and slowly, one by one, they began to refuse. Nathan received a new transmission. It was not from Zorvan. It was from ordinary Kethviri citizens, begging for mercy, offering to surrender their leaders, promising to do whatever was necessary to end the war. He looked at the message for a long time. Then he looked at a photograph he kept on his desk. Hannah, smiling, healthy, alive. She had sent him a message that morning. All the children of New Eden had signed it. It said only 4 words: "Remember who you are." Nathan closed his eyes and made a decision. The surrender came at dawn on the Kethviri homeworld. Not from High Prefect Zorvan, who locked himself in his palace and refused to speak, but from the people themselves. Military officers laid down their weapons. Government officials opened the doors to their buildings. Ordinary citizens walked into the streets with their hands raised, hoping that the humans would show them the mercy their leaders had never shown others. Nathan watched from the bridge of the Starward Horizon as transport ships descended to the planet's surface. There was no resistance. There was no fighting. The Kethviri Dominion, once the most feared power in this sector of the galaxy, surrendered without a single shot being fired. He thought about what Zorvan had said, about making humanity bleed for every meter of soil, about taking human ships down with them. Empty words from a hollow leader who had never faced consequences in his life. Nathan took a shuttle down to the surface. He landed in the capital city, a vast metropolis of silver towers and empty streets. Kethviri citizens watched from windows and doorways as human soldiers marched through their home. None of them tried to fight. They had seen what happened to those who fought. The palace stood at the center of the city, surrounded by walls that had never been breached in 3,000 years of Kethviri history. Human marines breached them in 15 minutes. Zorvan was found in his private chambers, sitting on a throne that had been built from the bones of conquered species. He looked small and old, his gray skin hanging loose on his thin frame. When Nathan entered the room, the High Prefect did not stand. "So you have come," Zorvan said. "The human who burned my empire. The human who destroyed everything my ancestors built." Nathan stood before the throne and said nothing. "Do you feel proud?" Zorvan continued. "Do you feel like a hero? You have killed millions of my people. You have destroyed our fleet, our stations, our future. For what? For a few dozen of your offspring?" 47 children, Nathan said quietly. That's what you took. 47 children who were playing at a festival. 47 children who had done nothing to you. 47 children you planned to cut apart and use like spare parts. Zorvan waved a dismissive hand. They were specimens, resources. Their sacrifice would have extended Kethviri lives for generations. Surely you can understand the greater good. Nathan felt anger rise in his chest, but he controlled it. This creature was not worth his rage. The Kethviri people have surrendered, Nathan said. They have agreed to our terms. Complete disarmament. Surrender of all war criminals. Permanent monitoring by the Galactic Council to ensure you never harm another species. Zorvan laughed. It was a bitter, ugly sound. And you think I will agree to this? You think I will hand over my generals, my scientists, myself, to face your primitive justice? No, Nathan said. I don't think you will. But your people will. As if on cue, the doors of the chamber opened. Kethviri citizens entered, led by military officers and government officials. They surrounded the throne, looking at their leader with eyes that held no loyalty, only exhaustion. High Prefect Zorvan, one officer said formally, you are under arrest for crimes against the people of the Dominion. Your policies have brought destruction upon us. Your actions have condemned our species to shame. We will not die for your pride. Zorvan stared at his own people in disbelief. You would betray me? After everything I have done for you? You did nothing for us, the officer replied. You did everything for yourself. And now it is over. Guards took Zorvan from his throne and placed restraints on his forearms. He struggled and shouted, but no one listened. The most powerful being in the Dominion was dragged away like a common criminal. The trials lasted 3 months. Zorvan, Melith's surviving colleagues, military commanders who had participated in the collections, scientists who had experimented on children of other species, all of them faced judgment. The evidence against them was overwhelming. The verdicts were unanimous. They were executed on the same day, in the same plaza where Zorvan had once celebrated his victories. Species from across the galaxy watched the broadcast. Many of them had lost children to the Kethviri. Many of them wept. Ambassador Vance addressed the Galactic Council one final time as the executions ended. The Kethviri Dominion is dissolved, she announced. The Kethviri people will rebuild under new leadership, with permanent oversight to ensure they never return to their old ways. Their military will be reduced to a defensive force only. Their medical research will be monitored to prevent any further exploitation of other species. She paused, looking at the assembled representatives. Humanity did what this council was too afraid to do for centuries. We stopped the Kethviri. We brought them to justice. We showed the galaxy that there are consequences for cruelty. Ambassador Euron rose from his seat. His golden eyes were bright. The Council acknowledges humanity's actions, he said carefully. We also acknowledge our own failure. For too long, we allowed the Kethviri to prey upon weaker species because we feared the cost of stopping them. That fear was cowardice. And that cowardice caused suffering beyond measure. He bowed his head. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally propose new laws protecting the children of all species. Any attack on children will be considered an attack on the entire galactic community. Any species that harms children will face immediate and unified response. The vote was unanimous. Nathan did not attend the trials or the council sessions. He was already gone, returning to New Eden with the starward horizon. The war was over. The mission was complete. It was time to go home. He found Hannah and Linda at their house on the edge of town. The Harvest Festival would be held again this year, though it would be smaller and quieter than before. Some wounds took time to heal. Hannah ran to him when she saw him coming up the path. She threw her arms around him and held tight. Uncle Nate, she whispered. You came back. I promised I would, Nathan said. I always keep my promises. They sat together on the porch as the sun set over New Eden. The sky turned orange and pink, and the first stars appeared above the horizon. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was watching humanity with new eyes. Some watched with fear. Some watched with respect. Some watched with hope. Nathan did not care about any of that. He only cared about the small hand holding his, about the peaceful sound of children laughing somewhere in the distance, about the simple miracle of a family reunited. The galaxy had learned a lesson that day, a lesson written in fire and blood and the fury of a species that would never stop protecting its own. You could take territory from humans. You could take resources. You could even take their lives. But you never, ever touched their children. Because if you did, no power in the universe would save you from what came next.